So I finally played the DLC for Persona 3 Reload. I was a huge fan of the game when it released earlier this year, and it's possibly my game of the year. I remember when I beat the game, I was looking at other reviews and I heard a lot of people upset that they cut out the answer from the game. And I was like, what the fuck is the answer? Was I just going through the question and never figured out the goddamn question? What is the answer? And then they announced that there was going to be a DLC based off the answer. So then, I did my research. I never played the original game, and Reload being the first time I'm playing Persona 3, so I had no idea what the answer was. So, a year or so after the original game came out, they re-released the game, and it was Persona 3 Fest, which included the answer as an epilogue to the game. Due to the ending of the game, they wanted to give a definitive answer to what happened to the MC, and talking to my sources meaning my cousin, told me that the answer was just okay. But I was curious, and ever since they announced the DLC, I've been super excited for it. And the fact that it was focusing on Aigis, one of my favorite members of C's, made me even more excited. So, after beating the DLC, what did I think of it? But before I get into this, obvious spoiler warning for Persona 3. I won't spoil the events of the DLC, but I will be going over the ending of the base game in this review. So if you haven't played the original or beaten Reload and you don't want to be spoiled, I would advise you beat the game first, then come back. I'm pretty sure most people watching this already knows what happens, but if you don't, this is your warning. And with that, let's get into it. After the party defeats Nitz, the goddess of death, and prevents the fall, and they meet up on graduation day as promised, it is revealed that during that moment, the protagonist passes on. A couple weeks later, the party is having a meetup where they hand over the evokers and a final celebration of getting rid of the Dark Hour. However, Akihiko and Yukari doesn't end up showing up. After the clock strikes midnight, the day seems to have reset itself. Then a mysterious figure bursts from underneath the dorm and attacks the party. Being unable to defeat her and almost killing Ken, Aigis awakens to her persona, but Athena turns into Orpheus, the protagonist's persona. After defeating her, Aigis passes out for about a day and learns that the members are trapped in the dorm with the date stuck on March 31st. The mysterious figure is revealed to be a robot like Aigis named Metis and is her sister, and only wants to protect Aigis. Metis explains that something called the Abyss of Time came to them and spread underneath the dorm, and this is the reason that they are stuck in the dorm, and is stuck on March 31st. She explains that she tried to kill the party due to them having a connection to the Abyss of Time. So C's has to find a way to free themselves from the Abyss, with Aigis being the leader due to her having the same power as the protagonist to wield multiple personas. Starting off with the positives of this DLC, first positive I have is how much they expand on the characters. Most of the characters get some development on how their lives are after the events of the base game and where they were when they first started off with the game. Now I already loved the party when I first played the game, but seeing them more is just awesome, and that's honestly what I wanted most out of this DLC. Aigis and Yukari are the main highlights in this DLC. They did such a good job making them grow as characters after what happened in the base game. They have such emotional and powerful scenes. They were fantastic in this DLC, and they made me love them even more. The next positive I have is that the theme of grief they decided to go into with this DLC. It made sense that they would have something about this due to the game's message about death. I love how they handled how each character took the death of their friends differently. When the DLC starts, you can just feel the uneasiness that the party feels after losing their leader. Some of them split up and try to be busy and not let themselves think about it too much. Some of them have regrets about not fulfilling promises they made to them. Once again, Yukari and Aigis are the highlights here. The way they handled the pain that they deal with was so heartbreaking, and I honestly felt so bad for them. But all of them were pretty good. The final positive I have with this DLC is the music itself. This music is so damn good, dude. All the tracks they added were fucking amazing, and I've been listening to the OST since it released. It's awesome. Onto the mixed elements of the DLC, the first one I have is Metis herself. Most of the time, she is extremely annoying and bitchy to the party, and she is super clingy to Aigis to the point where it's unhealthy. I swear, most of the time she said anything to the party, it would annoy me. She just acts like a brat and only behaves for Aigis because Aigis is basically like, hey, you better behave. And even at the end of the DLC, it never seemed like she even cared or even grew to care a little bit for the party other than Aigis. I understand what they were going for with her character and why she is the way she is, but damn, they could have done better with her. But the reason she's not a full-on negative is that she does have some good moments of Aigis, and I legit like using her in my party due to how strong she can actually be. And I really like her design too. I honestly like her design more than Aigis. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but that's just how I feel. Next myth element I have is that near the end of the DLC, the party has an argument over something that can change everything and they can't agree on a choice. I like the idea of them not agreeing over it because it would make sense that not everyone would agree in this situation that they were in. The part I don't like is how they solve their issue. I feel like they try to pad out the DLC's runtime and I didn't 100% like how they went about it. I feel like they could have done something better. The final myth element I have is more complicated and weird to explain, but I will try my best here. I personally think that the answer isn't needed in this story. I may be a dum-dum, but when I beat the base game, I didn't realize or even think that he died. So when I heard that he actually does die, I was just like, wait, what? I personally didn't get that impression from the game's ending at all. But after knowing that, I replayed the ending and I could see that perspective. And it fits with the game's themes and messages a lot more. While I was looking at what the answer was, I discovered that there were people like me who didn't think he died and didn't get that impression, and there was also people who thought that he did die when they first played through it. And that's what I think the original intent of the ending was. I think it was originally meant to be an ambiguous ending and not be stated if he lived or died or not. And that's what makes the ending so beautiful to me. Both sides are valid and lets the player think about the ending and makes him stick with them more. With the game's messages and themes and how much you grew to care about the characters. Once you get to that ending, it's just so beautiful and bittersweet. And with this DLC giving a definitive answer to that, it makes the ending a little less impactful to me. Now, I may like what they did with the characters and the themes that they tried to explore, and it made sense with the story of the game, but I honestly think that this isn't 100% needed in this story. That ending by itself is so amazing just the way it is. It's like wanting more of something you already like, but knowing you don't really need to have more of it. Yeah, you can still like it, but you deep down you know you don't 100% need it. And that's how I feel with the answer. Or maybe I'm just stupid, I don't know. Onto the negatives of the DLC. The first one I have is that there are no social links. I know that given the circumstances of the characters in the story, that they can't have social links, but it was so weird to me playing a Persona game or like anything Persona related without any social links. They do have small moments of each character, but that just wasn't enough for me. One of the main reasons why people love Persona is the social links, and not having them is just so weird. The next negative I have is the pacing and how long it gets to actually get to good story beats. This DLC takes around 20 to 30 hours to like get through the main story beats, and around 15 of those hours is just fighting in the Abyss of Time with no story. The Abyss of Time is like Tartarus, where you fight shadows and randomly generated rooms and you progress further on and on, but instead of going up, you're going down. Once you get to the bottom of path, you get to see a cutscene and that's it. And you gotta do it over again. And you do this 7 times before you start getting real story. And holy shit, by like the 5th door, it felt like a drag. Tartarus was good because you don't always have to go to it, and you can still have real story beats going on. You can like not go to Tartarus for like 3 to 4 days, and there's still like story beats going on, and it kept you motivated to keep going to Tartarus. With this, you go through a door, like the later doors has up to like 30 floors, and then you get one cutscene. Then you do it again 6 more times. And they recycle room themes way more than Tartarus, so it gets repetitive fast. Yes, the gameplay is the same and I like it, but if there's barely a story going on for most of the DLC, then it gets harder and harder to play. Once you clear all the doors, then all the story begins and begins to get interesting and all that. Like up until like the 5th door, it kind of felt like a drag. The final negative I have is the balancing. This DLC doesn't fuck around. Early on, it starts to get difficult. Most of the DLC I think was fine, but near the end and the bosses just feel so bullshit and cheap. Some of the fights just feel unfair. Maybe I just suck, I don't know. Overall, it may sound like I'm complaining a lot, but this DLC is fine. It's more of the same, honestly. The gameplay is the same, and it's still mostly good. And creating personas is still really satisfying and fun to do. The way they progress the characters and the themes of grief is extremely good. The music is fucking amazing. But honestly, I would be fine if this DLC or the answer didn't exist. I am 100% fine with the ending and the game that I got. I still mostly enjoyed myself going through it, but there were some things in here that either kinda annoyed me or really fucking annoyed me. It's not a bad DLC at all, but it isn't the greatest. I would still recommend this to people who really want to see what happens after the base game, and if you just want more of the game and want to play more of it, I will replay all of the game eventually, including this DLC, and it didn't ruin the game at all for me, and I still had fun most of the time. And at the end of the day, that's what a DLC is meant to be. That's why I'm gonna give episode Aigis, The Answer, a 7 out of 10. That's gonna do it all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did like it, and subscribe because I do gaming reviews, DLC reviews, and a whole bunch of other gaming related content on the channel, and if you're interested in that, you're gonna want to subscribe. I'll also be posting a link to my Persona 3 Reload review in the description if you want to have my full thoughts on that game. And comment down below what you guys thought of this DLC. Did you guys love it? Did you hate it? Or are you in the middle like me where you can appreciate it for the things it does well, but at the end of the day you don't think it's needed? Let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.